There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you can unlock a Sharingan. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of Fairy Tail? I hope you enjoy. Natsu was letting out a huge amount of flames of rage as he stared Gajeel down. You sure took the bait, Salamander. Gajeel said with a small sadistic chuckle. It's time you quit being a wet blanket all the time, Iron Dragon. Natsu responded. Natsu. Lucy said with a relieved smile that turned into a serious look when she saw Natsu's enraged expression. Lucy. Get back. Natsu warned as this fight might be too much for the celestial mage. Gajeel. One of the Phantom Lord wizards said. Stay out of this. Gajeel leapt towards Natsu. Bring it on. Natsu dashed towards Gajeel with his fists covered in flames. Gajeel transformed his arm into an iron pillar. Natsu grabbed the pillar and spun around, throwing Gajeel into the wall. Gajeel landed with his feet on the wall, which caused it to crack. Natsu charged at Gajeel with his flaming fist. Gajeel blocked it effortlessly with his iron pillar arm. The flames from Natsu's attack spread to the area around them, hitting Gajeel's men. Were caught in it. Gajeel leapt out of the smoke. Natsu rushed out after him and slammed his flaming fist into Gajeel's face, sending him flying across the room, crashing into the wall. Gajeel rubbed his cheek. He gazed out and saw Natsu above him with his foot covered in flames. Fire Dragon. Talon. Gajeel brought his arms into an X formation, blocking the attack. Lucy was watching the battle in awe. Lucy. Are you alright? Happy said, walking up to the blonde celestial mage. Happy. Lucy said with a smile that quickly vanished when she looked back over to the fight. What's wrong? Happy questioned. Oh, I've never seen Natsu like that before, Lucy said, staring in awe as Natsu walked towards Gajeel with a pissed off expression for what Gajeel did to Lucy. Me neither. But this Natsu is strong, Happy said when suddenly the whole castle began to shake, making almost everyone, even Natsu and Gajeel, lose balance. What's going on? Lucy questioned. This must be Itachi's doing. Happy replied, desperately trying not to fall. Itachi? Lucy questioned as she recalled the name, but she wasn't sure from where. He's known as the Demon Eyes of Fairy Tail. He's also Urza's older brother. Happy replied, and then it dawned on Lucy. The Demon Eyes of Fairy Tail? You mean the Itachi Uchiha? Lucy questioned in shock at hearing that one of the most popular mages in the country was here. You know him? Happy questioned. Who doesn't? He's ranked number 1 in Sorcerer Weekly as the hottest guy in all of Fury. Lucy said, showing excitement with hearts in her eyes. How strong is he actually? Lucy asked, now out of her fangirl mode. He's actually one of the strongest in the guild. And he's also the youngest to ever become an S-class mage. Some say that he's even stronger than the master, although he never shows his full power, so no one knows for sure. Happy replied. He's that powerful? Lucy questioned in awe. Natsu even challenges him as often as he can. Happy replied. With Itachi leapt out from some smoke, with Jose also leaping out and charging at Itachi with some ghost-like hands. Itachi jumped away, dodging the hands as he made a few hand signs. Fire style. Phoenix flower. Itachi blasted out several blazing volleys of small fireballs, which flew towards Jose in an unpredictable manner. The fireballs collided with the shadow ghost hands, reducing them into nothing but traces of shadows. Jose smirked confidently as Itachi looked at him with his Sharingan spinning around. You really think you can defeat me, boy? You may be an S-class mage, but I'm one of the 10 wizard saints. Jose said as several shadow ghost hands wrapped themselves around Itachi's body, lifting him up in the air. Don't make me laugh. Jose had a wicked grin. With Natsu, quit actin' cocky, pathetic scum. Gajeel mocked. You're one to talk. Natsu retorted back. You had no problem beating up Lucy, Natsu said while cracking his knuckles. I'm gonna deform your face and smash you into iron sand. Gajeel let out a chuckle. Amusing. Like to see you try. Gajeel and Natsu charged, slamming their fists into each other. Natsu swiftly bent down and kicked Gajeel in the chin with his flaming foot. Gajeel got up and extended his arm into an iron pillar that Natsu dodged by jumping up in the air. He then placed his hands on the iron pillar and leapt towards Gajeel, kicking him in the face. Gajeel transformed his other arm into an iron sword, trying to slice Natsu, who dodged just in time. What's with the dangerous hardware? Natsu questioned. The Iron Dragon sword, Gajeel replied as the sword had some spikes on the side. It cuts apart everything it touches. Gajeel said as the sword began to rotate like a chainsaw. See how sharp it is for yourself, Salamander. That's nothing to me, Natsu said with confidence. What is that? Lucy questioned. Iron Dragon Slayer magic, Happy said cheerfully. Gajeel charged at Natsu with a crazed grin, with the iron sword raised above his head. Natsu leapt to the side as Gajeel slammed the sword down, cutting the ground, even getting his teammates caught in it. We're caught in it, Part 2. What's the matter? Not gonna block me this time, huh? Gajeel said, slicing after Natsu, who dodged every attack. I thought this was nothing to you. Gajeel continued to slice after Natsu, who dodged every blow and leapt back away from Gajeel. Oh, you're actually pretty nimble. Same goes for you, Natsu said with a grin on his face as this fight was exciting to him. Gajeel deactivated the sword, returning his arm back to normal. We never settled our little fight the other day. Waitia say we finish it now, Salamander. I'm all fired up now, scrap Iron Freak. Natsu replied. A magic circle formed beneath Gajeel as his skin turned into iron scales. Now you're going down. His body, Lucy said in shock. Dragon scales, Happy shouted. Gajeel leapt towards Natsu with his fist raised behind his head. Iron Dragon. Hard fist. Natsu blocked Gajeel's punch with his arm, however, the impact of the punch sent Natsu flying across the room, crashing into a wall where Gajeel's teammates were. We're caught in it, Part 3. One of them shouted. I'm sick of this. Another one cried. Now that was a nice sound. Gajeel said with an evil smirk as Natsu was holding over a dark blue-purple spot on his arm. He dropped Natsu to his knees with one hit. Lucy said in a worried tone while using her hand to cover her mouth. Those scales are made of steel. Happy said. Gajeel delivered an upper punch to Natsu's chin and punched him again while giving an evil smirk. Gajeel let out a kick, but Natsu dodged, but the pressure from the attack sent waves of wind across the room. The wind pressure was so strong that Lucy had to hold down her skirt while Happy was holding on to Lucy so that he wouldn't be blown away. You gotta be kidding me. Wind pressure from a kick, Lucy said. His steel scales have doubled the strength of his attacks. Happy shouted. Natsu punched Gajeel in the face with his fist covered in flames, but to no effect. My steel scales nullify all attacks, Gajeel said with a smirk while Natsu screamed in pain. No way. It increased his defense too, Lucy said in shock as Natsu's chances of winning seemed slim. Natsu, Happy shouted. Natsu was rolling on the ground back and forth. Damn. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt one bit, Natsu shouted, trying to ignore the pain. That's what he says, Lucy said. Happy said. Shudder trap, Gajeel said and head-butted Natsu into the ground. Quit trying to hang on to your pride. Sending his hand slamming down, but Natsu leapt back. Hard-headed bastard. This'll blow you away. Natsu slammed his fists together and gathered his hands in front of his mouth like he was holding a flute. Fire Dragon. Roar. Iron Dragon. Roar. Gajeel mimicked Natsu's movements as Natsu roared out a wave of fire and Gajeel let out a wave of iron. The pressure was felt all across the room as it blew Lucy and Happy back, as well as affecting Gajeel's teammates. We're caught in it, Part 4. One of them said, now laying in the rubble on the ground. That's Gajeel for you. Looks like the difference between our dragon qualities have become clear, Salamander. Not even breath that can burn a person to cinders can leave a mark against steel, Gajeel said with an overconfident grin, as only a small area on the front of his clothes were burned off. But my iron blade breath can rip your body into shreds, Gajeel said to Natsu, who had several bruise marks on his body. Natsu, Lucy said in a worried tone. He's strong, Happy said. Not a single mark, huh? You daydreaming or something? Natsu asked with a grin as a crack appeared on Gajeel's face. My fire is no ordinary fire. Fire Dragon fire destroys everything, Natsu said as he took off his black vest and as a magic circle formed beneath him. Natsu was letting out a huge amount of fire around his body. You're gonna shatter into pieces if you don't fight for real, Black Steel Gajeel. We've had enough time to test each other out. Gajeel let out a smirk. That's more like it, Gajeel said as he removed the top of his clothing. Bring it on, Black Steel Gajeel, Natsu said. There's no need for two dragons in these skies. I'll send you crashing down, Salamander Natsu, Gajeel said. Meanwhile outside, all the shade ghosts formed into a large orb with several arms sticking out of it. Whoa, what's with the creepy hand movements? Lackey questioned, staring in horror. You're complaining about that, Wakaba questioned when it was obvious that they should all be worrying about the massive ghost sphere. This is bad, Mikao said. The orb then began to slam its hands down upon the Fairy Tail Guildhall. What are you doing to our guild? Kana questioned as tears formed in her eyes. Shoot it down. Damn it. Back with Natsu and Gajeel. They both charged at each other, Natsu with his fist covered in flames, and Gajeel with his steel fist. Their fists collided, sending massive shockwaves. The ceiling then exploded as Natsu and Gajeel flew out, charging at each other. What are these guys? Bose questioned. They took off, Su said. In the air, Natsu slammed his fist into Gajeel's face, who returned the favor by slamming his fist into Natsu's face. They began to throw a barrage of punches and kicks at each other. They both landed on top of the building and charged at each other, colliding their heads together. As they continued to charge at each other, leaving sparks, Natsu kicked Gajeel in the chin and Gajeel then punched Natsu in the face. They kept exchanging blows as they landed back into the room with both of them panting. Gajeel's getting beaten, Su said in shock. No, look, the salamander is out of breath too, Bose said. Huh, Natsu questioned as he saw Gajeel beginning to eat pieces of iron. Hey, that's not fair. You get to eat, Natsu shouted. Shut up, Gajeel said. He does eat iron after all, Lucy said. I wonder if it's any good, Happy questioned. I'm fired up now, Gajeel bellowed with a smirk. Don't copy me, Natsu shouted. Gajeel let out a huge amount of energy. Get ready to be mincemeat. Iron Dragon Spear. Demon Logs. Gajeel shot several logs of iron at Natsu, who screamed in pain of the attack. Fire, fire, I can't remember, do I have a fire celestial spirit? Lucy questioned as she looked for something, but then she remembered. Oh, right, I lost my keys, all I have on me is this Sagittarius key I recently got. Lucy said, holding a golden key in her hand. I haven't even made a contract yet, but, this is our only chance now. Back outside, the giant orb continued to destroy the Fairy Tail Guildhall. Stop, Kana shouted as tears streamed down her cheeks as they saw their guildhall getting reduced to rubble bit by bit. Kana, Macau shouted, holding her back. Our guild, Kana shouted, trying to break free. Stay back, Macau pleaded. Back with Natsu and the others. I am connected with the path to the celestial spirit world. Heed my call. Pass through the gate. Open. Gate of the Horseman. Sagittarius, Lucy chanted as out of a magic circle came an archer dressed in a horse outfit. Hello, the horseman greeted. That's how it is? Lucy questioned, not expecting this. A horse costume, Happy questioned. We can talk later. Can you shoot fire? Lucy asked. No, I am a master archer. Hello, Sagittarius replied as he looked into the horizon and saluted. Oh, Lucy said in a disappointed tone. What is he even saluting at? Happy questioned. Lucy, get back. This is dangerous, Natsu warned. Lucy said, dragging Sagittarius with her. Hello, Sagittarius questioned as he was being dragged away. Here goes, Natsu shouted and charged at Gajeel with his body covered in flames. Fire Dragon. Sword Horn. Natsu charged like a missile at Gajeel, crashing into his gut to no effect. Feelin' hungry and low on energy? Gajeel asked with a smirk and elbowed Natsu down to the ground. Then, eat some iron, Gajeel said as his arm turned into an iron pillar that pushed Natsu with his face on the ground back, and then sent him slamming into the wall. I have no use for you anymore. Get out of my sight, scum, Gajeel shouted as Natsu landed in front of a hole in the wall. No, this can't be real. Natsu can't lose, Lucy cried. Gajeel let out a laughter. Just look at what you guys were trying to protect, Gajeel said with a laugh as Natsu looked out from the hole, seeing their guildhall being smashed into rubble. With Itachi looked out the window while being held by ghost hands. He saw their guildhall being smashed into rubble as he heard the cries of his guild mates. Well, how does it feel to lose your guildhall? Jose questioned with an evil smirk. Itachi kept looking outside, ignoring Jose as memories of him and Urza first arriving at the guild flushed through his mind, memories of the bonds they formed with new friends and comrades. Does it make you feel helpless? Or perhaps weak? Jose asked with an evil smirk, trying to get Itachi to feel despair. Itachi remained silent, ignoring Jose's words, not seeming to care, which angered the Phantom Master. Don't ignore me when I'm talking to you, Jose shouted as he electrocuted Itachi by sending waves of purple lightning through the ghost hands. Itachi grunted in pain. Now tell me how you feel, Oni-san, Urza shouted as she was about to charge but saw Itachi showing his hand as a sign to back off. Our guildhall, Gray muttered. This bastard, Elfman cursed. Itachi, Mira muttered in a worried tone. It's just a building, Itachi replied. What? Jose questioned with a raised brow. It can easily be rebuilt, my friends cannot. If you're trying to aggravate me, you're doing a poor job. Itachi said, mocking Jose, who now looked at Itachi with rage in his eyes. Itachi then felt that Natsu's energy was low, and that Gajil's energy was way higher now. Itachi looked up to the ceiling, he then inhaled his breath. Natsu. Itachi shouted as he made a tiger hand sign with one of his hands. Eat this. Fire style. Fireball. Itachi sent out a massive blazing ball of fire that was sent crashing through the ceiling and continuing to work its way up. What the? Jose questioned in bewilderment. Natsu widened his eyes when he heard Itachi's voice, when suddenly the floor around him was hit by a major fireball making flames burn around him. What the? Fire? Lucy questioned. It's Itachi's. Happy shouted with joy as Natsu began devouring the flames. Yeah, only Itachi's flames taste this sweet. I'm all fired up now. Natsu shouted as he leapt at Gajil, slamming his fist into his face, sending Gajil reeling. Don't get cocky just cause you ate some fire. Gajil said as he charged at Natsu, who just swung his fist at Gajil, sending powerful waves of flames at him. Alright, Lucy shouted. Now he's at full power. Happy shouted with joy. Back with Itachi. Itachi let out a smirk. Go get him, Itachi said as he looked towards Urza, Mira, Gray and Elfman. Get out of here right now, Itachi ordered. No way. We're not leaving you, Urza shouted, wanting to stay and help Itachi defeat Jose. Get out of here. I can't fight him knowing you guys could get hurt from our battle. You will only get in my way. Listen to me, get out of here now, Itachi ordered with a stern face. He's right guys, we will only be a distraction. Gray said, having full faith that Itachi would beat this phantom clown of a master. Let's go, Gray said as he went towards the exit with Elfman following him. Nei-chan. Come on, Elfman shouted to his older sister. Right, Mira said and went over to Urza. Come on, let's go, we have to trust him. Oni-san, don't you dare lose, Urza said as she and Mira left with the others. Itachi looked towards them with a smile, then he gained a more serious look as he looked over to Jose. Now to end this war, Itachi said as his body turned into a murder of crows. What? Jose questioned when suddenly Itachi appeared in front of him, delivering a punch to his face, sending Jose flying into a wall. You little brat, Jose cursed as he got out from the rubble. This war ends with Fairy Tail's victory, Itachi said as he made a few hand signs. Fire style. Dragon flame bomb. Itachi spewed out a large wave of fire that took the shape of a dragon's head. Jose dodged it by leaping to the side, but Itachi appeared in front of him, kicking him in the chest, sending him flying across the room. Back with Natsu. Gajil placed his hands in front of his mouth like he was holding a flute. Iron Dragon. Roar. Gajil let out a wave of iron. Natsu brought forth his hands in front of the breath attack, and then deflecting it. He deflected my breath with just his bare hands, Gajil said with his eyes wide in shock. Just how much harm do you have to cause until you guys are satisfied? Natsu questioned in anger as thanks to Itachi's powerful flames, Natsu's power had risen to new heights. Impossible. I can't lose to the likes of him, I can't lose to this scum. Gajil said in disbelief. I'm gonna pay you back for everything you've done. Messing with Fairy Tail is the biggest mistake you ever made, Natsu shouted as his body erupted in flames that were way more violent than ever before, as he slammed his fist into his palm. Meanwhile, back outside, the guild has been reduced to rubble, and the large orb had begun to vanish as all the shades returned to their normal state and begun attacking the Fairy Tail guild members once more. Our guild. Damn, the shades are coming back, Visca said as she reloaded her magic shotgun. That's right, even if our guild's been destroyed, this fight ain't over yet. Alzak shouted to his fellow guild mates. Yeah, the Fairy Tail members shouted in unison. Back with Natsu. Natsu let out a violent amount of flames while looking at Gajil, who looked at Natsu in anger. Do you know who I am, you piece of crap? Gajil shouted as he charged at Natsu. Iron Dragon. Hard Fist. Gajil threw a punch, as did Natsu, who collided his fist with Gajil's. Natsu let out fire from his fist, as slowly the heat began cracking Gajil's steel scale armor. I'm supposed to be the strongest, Gajil muttered. This is the end, Natsu declared as his other fist began letting out a huge amount of flames. Flame Lotus. Fire Dragon Fist. Natsu threw a barrage of punches at Gajil that looked like fists of fire. Levy. Jet. Droy. Nab. Macau. Gramps. Urza. Lucy. Natsu said as he delivered an uppercut to Gajil's jaw. Natsu then let out a shout while his body let out another massive amount of fire. This is for them, and for our guild you destroyed. Natsu again began to throw a barrage of flaming punches at Gajeel. The power from Natsu's attack destroyed the top area of what was left of the giant, sending Gajeel flying out a hole in the wall. Outside, everyone looked towards the light coming from the top of the giant. Al, that light, Biska said. It's Natsu, Alzak said with a grin. Everyone let out a cheer as the head of the giant fell into the water. Back inside the ruins of the giant. Whoa, is this for real? Bose questioned. Gajeel lost, Sue questioned. Happy then came flying while holding Lucy. Natsu, Lucy shouted. Natsu, Happy shouted as they both looked for the fire dragon slayer. They then spotted Natsu looking down on the beaten Gajeel. Natsu won. Piece of crap, Gajeel muttered as his body was covered in bruise marks. Now we're even, Natsu said as he fell down to his knees and then on his back. Natsu, Lucy shouted. Natsu let out a weak chuckle. Pretty much can't move after that, Natsu said with a grin as Lucy and Happy flew towards him. Sheesh, he sure knows how to go overboard, Lucy said as tears of happiness formed in her eyes. Aye, that's Natsu for you, Happy said with a smile. With Itachi, rubble began to fall around Itachi and Jose as they stared each other down. What an unruly dragon, Jose said. You will find that most of us in Fairy Tail are like that. And there are plenty of powerful people like me in it, Itachi said with a smile overhearing his guildmates cheering outside. Don't be so modest, Itachi, the demon eyes of Fairy Tail. Your magic is spectacular indeed. You're also very talented if fighting. In fact, you're actually the first wizard to last this long against me in a fight. That I cannot stand, in fact that there are more powerful wizards like you in Makarov's guild, Jose said as he flicked his fingers sending a small bullet of magic energy at Itachi, who just tilted his head to the side dodging it. Jose then had small dark purple orbs forming on his fingertips. Do you know why I didn't finish Makarov off? Jose asked as the orbs shoot out from his fingers. Itachi dodged all of them with ease as dust began gathering up behind him. Despair. I did it to instill despair. Despair, huh? Itachi said as he narrowed his eyes at Jose and threw some kunais at him. Jose leapt to the side dodging the knives. How will he feel when he wakes up and sees that his beloved guild and comrades have been wiped out? He'll be grief-stricken, I'm sure. Once I've given him despair and sorrow, then I will destroy him. It will not be a pleasant death. He will suffer, and suffer even more as he withers and dies. Jose said with an evil smirk. If you think you're strong enough to beat Master Makarov, then you are blind. Itachi mocked. Jose growled in anger as he blasted out more orbs at Itachi. The orbs exploded around Itachi. As Jose looked at the area where Itachi stood, that was now covered in a dust cloud. Itachi then appeared as a ghost behind Jose with a kunai directed at his neck. How do you expect to beat him when you can't even defeat me? A mere S-class mage as you called me. Jose then vanished from the spot and appeared behind Itachi. Phantom Lord was always the top guild. It had the greatest magic in the kingdom, the greatest personnel, the most money, but Fairy Tail has suddenly grown much stronger in recent years. Jose said the last part in disgust. Itachi, Urza, Laxus, Mistogen, those names even reached our town, and the stories about the salamander spread throughout the land like a wildfire. At some point, Phantom Lord and Fairy Tail became the two guilds that represent this kingdom. I can't stand it. Your guild was always feeble as hell. Itachi then appeared at a high speed in front of Jose and kicked him in the gut, sending him back a few steps. In other words, you were jealous, and started this war. Jealousy. Nothing of the sort. We only want to make it clear who's dominant and who isn't. Jose said as he crawled out from some rubble and spitted out some blood to the side. Hey, guess that makes us dominant then, Itachi said with a smirk. What? Jose questioned with a growl. Element 4. Black Steel Gajeel, were all defeated by members of Fairy Tail. In fact, you're the only one left standing on your side in this war. And also you were such a coward that you didn't have the guts to fight Master Makarov yourself. No, you needed help for that. In fact, you're the master of Phantom Lord and you're losing to me, a mere S-class mage from Fairy Tail. Itachi pointed out, which only angered Jose even further. Shut up. Jose shouted in anger and sent some ghostly shadow skulls at Itachi. Itachi raced through some hand signs. Earth style. Mud wall. A wall popped up from the ground blocking Jose's attack. I've never been fond of your guild, but it was something trivial that triggered this war, Jose said. A job request to take the daughter of the Heartfilia concern back home. The new girl, Lucy, right? Itachi questioned with a stoic expression. That's right. One of this kingdom's richest socialites, a member of Fairy Tail. Just how large must you become until you're satisfied? With unfettered access to the Heartfilia fortune, you would undoubtedly grow far more powerful than us. That is the one thing we cannot allow, Jose said as he kept shooting out more dark orbs at Itachi that just jumped around and dodged each and every one. So you're that delusional, huh? Our guild doesn't care about such things as where we stand in the ranks. I don't know this Lucy girl that much, I have only heard and seen what others are willing to do in order to protect her. But since she is a runaway, wouldn't that mean that she won't have access to her family fortune? It's common sense. The fact that you didn't know that makes you far stupider than I thought. Another thing, she's one of us, a member of Fairy Tail, she's a part of our family now, and if you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Itachi declared as he placed his palm on the ground with lightning flickering around his palm. Chidori stream. Lightning began flickering on the ground as it approached Jose, who leapt in the air dodging it. In the air, Jose widened his eyes as Itachi was in front of him with a kunai in his hand. Slice. Itachi and Jose landed on the ground a few steps away from each other, when Jose's Wizard Saint medallion landed next to Itachi. Itachi stepped on it, crushing it beneath his boot. Someone like you doesn't deserve the title of Wizard Saint. Hey, destroying my medallion doesn't change the fact that my power is equal to the Wizard Saint's while you are nothing more than an S-class wizard. Jose said with an evil chuckle. So you don't know that either? Itachi said with an emotionless expression. Know what? Jose questioned. Before they gave the title to Jura, they offered it to me but I turned it down. Itachi replied, shocking Jose. What? Jose questioned with his eyes wide and sweat running down his forehead. After all, I don't need a title that says how strong I am. Itachi said. Hey, so you're telling me that you're on par with me and Makarov? Jose asked with an expression that asked if this was a joke. I guess you could say that, yes. Itachi replied in a calm and relaxed tone. Then this shall be amusing indeed, Jose said with an evil wicked grin. Before we continue, knowing guys like you have something else planned for Lucy, right? Itachi asked. Of course I have. Did you think I was going to hand her over to her father just like that? I'm going to keep her like a pet until I've bled him dry. I will have all of the Heartfilia fortune, Jose said with a crazed grin. Now then, let's get this cruel show underway, Jose said as his eyes turned dark. Dead wave. Jose gathered several ghosts around his right hand as he gathered energy around his hand. He then extended his palm, shooting a dark purple wave at Itachi, who responded with his favorite hand signs. Fire style. Fireball. Itachi spat out a large ball of fire that collided with the wave, creating a gigantic explosion that was visible for everyone outside. Time to end this, Itachi said as his body turned into a murder of crows that attacked Jose. Jose blocked his eyes with his arm, and when he peeked he saw the crows forming into Itachi, who grabbed Jose by the collar and tossed him across the room. With Perliuzica was looking up in the sky as wind blew around her. Around her were some boxes filled with different items as well as one filled with apples. This is why I can't stand people, Perliuzica shouted as she threw a tantrum, kicking the box of apples over and swinging her broom to the side, knocking over the other boxes. Fighting is the only way those foolish creatures can solve anything. Makarov, you nitwit, if you wanna die that badly, then go right ahead. Same goes for that Itachi, despite being sick he's still fighting. An apple landed next to a foot of a dark hooded masked figure with several staffs on his back. The mysterious figure picked up the apple. Mistogen, Perliuzica muttered. May I have this? Mistogen asked. Oh, I see. I thought it was strange how Makarov recovered so quickly. It was you who gathered up Makarov's magic, Perliuzica said as Mistogen took a bite of the apple. Who said you could eat that? The war will conclude very shortly, Mistogen said. I don't want to say anything to promote aggression between people, but you are one of Makarov's men, aren't you? Then get out of here. Go on and fight or whatever, Perliuzica said when suddenly a large gust of wind blew around as several Phantom Lord flags flew around and landed around the area. Phantom Lord flags? Don't tell me he went and toppled every Phantom branch himself, Perliuzica thought in awe. Mistogen leapt down and walked towards Perliuzica. I'd like to ask for another apple. You are planning to pick up this trash, I hope, Perliuzica said as Mistogen picked up another apple. You people truly confound me. Excessive strength brings nothing but grief. And anger makes you forget you're stuck in a tragic spiral. Mistogen took a bite of the apple and looked up in the sky. I want to believe in the sacred light that envelops that and all else. The sacred light that guides all, here. Mistogen said and gave Perliuzica a bag. What's this? Perliuzica questioned. The last medical herbs from my part of the list for Itachi's cure. Now all that remains is to see if he gathered his part. Mistogen said. Let's hope that he's got his part. Perliuzica said, sounding actually slightly concerned. With Itachi, Jose sent ghostly skulls towards Itachi, who dodged them by jumping to the side. I suggest you give up, Jose, before things go too far. Itachi said as lightning danced around his body. Itachi was right in front of Jose and began to rotate, sending a massive surge of lightning around him, electrocuting Jose, who grunted in pain as he backed up. Don't look down on me, you brat, Jose said as he gathered dark energy into his fist and charged at Itachi. Itachi formed a blue sphere in his palm and charged at Jose. Over the last few years, Itachi had managed to perfect a standard normal Rasengan. Their attacks collided, sending shockwaves around the area, making the whole area around them shake. Itachi then spun his body upwards with his leg raised up high. Itachi delivered an axe kick to Jose's head, sending him crashing down to the ground and forming a crater. Jose looked up at Itachi in anger. Itachi's Sharingan looked back at him while spinning around. Let's see you deal with a direct attack, Jose shouted, gathering energy into his palm once more. Dead wave. Jose blasted a massive dark purple wave that hit Itachi directly while Jose was laughing maniacally. How's that fairy tale? Jose shouted while laughing. He then felt some hands grabbing his legs. He looked down to see several demon-like creatures that wrapped their hands around Jose. I can't move, Jose muttered as he was dragged down through some portal. What is this? Jose released as much magic power as he could as the world around him began to crack. Suddenly Jose saw that he was on his knees and an unharmed Itachi stood in front of him. I can't believe I fell for an illusion, Jose growled in anger. Give up, or I will give you an illusion 100 times more powerful than that. Itachi threatened, having used one of his weaker illusions on Jose. Itachi then felt a stabbing pain in his chest, making him flinch a bit while he narrowed his eyes. I have to finish this quickly, Itachi thought. Itachi brought out several kunais with paper bomb tags attached to them. He threw them at Jose. Jose responded by making a defensive magic circle blocking the explosion. I will take you down. That will make everyone surrender when the great Itachi is beaten. I will erase all of their hopes, Jose said as he sent several phantom ghosts at Itachi. You have destroyed my guild hall, threatened and harmed my guild mates, harmed Urza and Mira, and harmed the master. For that, I will show you a horror beyond that of your little phantom tricks, Itachi said in a cold tone as his Sharingan turned into Mangekyo Sharingan. You think you can threaten me? I'm one of the 10 great wizard saints. Even if you might have been offered the title doesn't mean you're stronger or even equal to me. So bow down before me, Jose said as dark ghostly creatures appeared around him. You've had your chance, Itachi said with his eyes closed. He then opened them, revealing his black pinwheel Mangekyo Sharingan. Tsukuyomi. A large black and white dome surrounded them. As for Jose, it looked like time itself had stopped. Another illusion. I will just break free like I did last time, Jose said with a smirk. That was a low-class illusion. This one, however, is completely different. In this world, time, space and even physical matter, I control it all. In this world I am God, Itachi said as suddenly swords pierced all around Jose's body, making him scream in pain. It's just an illusion, Jose told himself and tried to ignore the pain, yet it felt surreal. It was hard to ignore. Telling yourself that it's just an illusion will do you little good. Pain is pain no matter how you look at it, Itachi said as several hundreds of him appeared around Jose. For the next 72 hours, you will feel a torture like none you've ever felt before, Itachi said as multiple clones of him stood around Jose holding swords, making the Phantom Master sweat and widen his eyes in fear. Later on, in the real world, Jose let out screams of pain and horror that echoed through the Phantom Guild. When Jose himself came back to reality, he was shaking in fear. He looked at Itachi and started to back away while shaking. Stay away, demon, stay away, Jose muttered while backing away in fear. Never come near Fairy Tail again, Itachi said in a threatening tone as he looked around outside to see all the shades attacking his guildmates vanishing. Just like I would have said myself. Makarov's voice was heard, making Itachi turn to the source, seeing Makarov in front of the exit as he was walking up to Itachi. You did good, my boy. Master, it's good to see you back on your feet, Itachi said with a bow. The council won't be able to ignore this, given the level of mayhem. Looks like Jose's main concern should be saving his own hide from the council, Makarov said. Shall we go? Makarov said as he began to walk out with Itachi. You know, you should probably think about saving your own hide as well, master. Itachi said, making Makarov pale. Don't joke like that, Makarov said as Arya appeared behind them out from the wind. So sad, he's wide open, just like before. And now with the demon eyes of Fairy Tail, Itachi Uchiha as well. They're mine, Arya thought as he made magic circles on his palms. You know he's behind us, right? Itachi said. Yeah, Makarov replied as he extended his hand and slammed his fist into Arya's face, knocking him out. It's over now. We've settled things between our guilds. If you keep pushing me more, I will exterminate all of you and leave no trace. Makarov said in a scary tone, then he turned around with a goofy smile. Take Jose back home, right this minute. We won. We beat Phantom. Cheers from their fellow guild members were heard. Both Itachi and Makarov walked out of the giant and looked down on their fellow guild members. It's Fairy Tail's victory, Makarov shouted out. It's our family's victory. Itachi leapt down onto the water and began walking towards the forest area. You're leaving already? Makarov asked. I'll be going over to Perliuzica with the herbs, I'll be back once that's done. Itachi replied and waved Makarov off. I see, Makarov said as he went over to the others. Master, Urza shouted with Mira, Gray and Elfman running behind her. Where's Oni-san going? Urza questioned seeing Itachi leave into the woods. He has some business to take care of, he will be back in a few minutes. Makarov replied. Come on now, let's celebrate. Itachi walked through the woods and went up to Perliuzica's house and knocked on the door. Perliuzica opened up the door and had her usual expression. I figured you would be here by now. Do you have them? Itachi brought out a scroll. He then bit his finger, making it bleed. He then drew the blood on the scroll and did a few hand signs. Release, Itachi said as a large puff of smoke appeared, showing different herbs on the scroll. Is that all of it? Did you find them all? Perliuzica asked as she saw various different herbs, and some were even more than just one. No, Itachi replied. No? What do you mean no? Perliuzica questioned with a raised brow. I found all but one. When I came to the field with those flower herbs you told me about, the blood vein flower, the entire field was destroyed. Itachi replied. So I gathered a little extra of the rest of the herbs, hoping that would help. Without that flower I can't heal you. But with these I should be able to make something that will at least prolong your life for a while so that you can continue your search. Perliuzica said. Are there other places with that flower? Itachi asked. There might be. But I think you would have to look in a different country, but there should at least be some areas where you could find these flowers in this country, although that's a slim chance. Perliuzica replied. I see. How long until you can make that medicine? Itachi asked with a stoic expression. It should be ready after the harvest festival. The question is, can you last that long? Perliuzica questioned. I have had this before, remember. I think I can hold on until then, maybe longer. Itachi replied before walking out. Where are you going? Perliuzica questioned. To celebrate, we did beat Phantom after all. Itachi replied with a smile. I trust you will notify me when it's done. Stupid brat, you should act more worried. Perliuzica muttered. With Natsu was still laying at the same spot after he defeated Gajeel, with the Iron Dragon Slayer just a few meters away. Hey, can you hear me, Gajeel? Natsu asked. I can't hear nothing, Gajeel replied. Tell me, where did you learn Dragon Slayer magic? Natsu asked as he struggled to get up on his knees to look down on Gajeel. I told you, I can't hear you, Gajeel said, ignoring the Fire Dragon Slayer. This is the first time I've met anyone who can use the same magic as me. You can at least tell me that much, Natsu said. Shut up, Gajeel said, pissing Natsu off. Metallicana. Huh? Natsu questioned. The Steel Dragon Metallicana. Gajeel replied. What? Natsu questioned as he lost his balance and fell down. So you were taught by a dragon? You were too, Gajeel questioned. Where is he now? Natsu asked. Dunno. Gajeel replied. Where is he now? Natsu asked again with an angry expression. I told you, I don't know. Gajeel shouted as they both head-butted each other. Ow. Both of them muttered in unison. Man, I feel like my brain's gonna turn to ash, talking to you, Gajeel said. What? The insulted Natsu questioned. He vanished. Metallicana just suddenly left one day, without so much as a word. Man, talk about a selfish bastard, Gajeel said. Hold on. That wasn't 7 years ago on July 7th, was it? Natsu asked. What? You know where Metallicana is? Gajeel asked. Don't be stupid. I'm trying to find Igneal, a fire dragon. Igneel disappeared on July 7, 7 years ago too. Natsu replied. 2 dragons disappeared 7 years ago, on July 7, 777. Gajeel said in surprise at the coincidence. What's with all the 7s? Natsu questioned as he head-butted Gajeel. How should I know? Gajeel shouted. Ow. It doesn't matter to me, anyway. Gajeel said as he stood up. If you're gonna leave, just do it already. Natsu said. This is our guild. You're the one who has to leave. Gajeel shouted. What a small-minded jerk. Natsu said as he got up. Get lost. Gajeel shouted. Let me know if you ever find out about Igneel. Natsu said as he began walking. Why should I be nice to you? Gajeel questioned. We're both dragon slayers, after all. Natsu replied with a smile. Screw you. Next time I see you, I'll destroy you. I swear it. Just you wait and see. Gajeel shouted. Man, you're vicious. I was thinking of making up with you now that we're even, too, Natsu said. Who are you calling vicious? You're the one who did this to our guild. Gajeel shouted, pointing at the area they stood at, which used to be the Phantom Lord Guild. You guys wrecked our guild too, you know. Arg. Forget it. I'm not making up with you after all. Natsu shouted and left. Later Makarov let out a sigh as he and the others looked at what was left of their guild hall. They really went to town on it this time. Master, Lucy said, making them turn towards her. You've certainly been through a lot yourself, Makarov said. Don't look so glum, Lou. Levy's voice was heard as Lucy looked over to her and saw the blue-haired bookworm. We're back, Levy, Lucy said as she saw Ritas behind her and 2 other guys. One of them had spiky orange hair, he had a dark purple high-collared shirt, a white belt around his waist, black pants. This was Jet, a member of Levy's team Shadow Gear. The other one had black hair that went up, making it looking like a whale's tail. He had a white shirt and green pants. This was Droy, the second member of Levy's team. We all worked together for this great victory. Levy said. Even if the guild did get ruined. Droy said. But it's not like we can't rebuild it. Jet said. We. Ritas said. Everyone. Lucy muttered. Sorry for worrying you, Lou. Levy said. And no. It was all my. Lucy said. I heard everything. But no one blames you for this, Lou. Levy said with a comforting smile. In fact, I should apologize for being useless, Ritas said, rubbing the back of his head as he was supposed to keep Lucy safe from Phantom. Lucy. Makarov said, gaining her attention. Although it doesn't hold true for every bit of happiness or sadness, we still share things to an extent. That's what it means to be a guild. One person's happiness is everyone's happiness, one person's anger is everyone's anger, and one person's tears are everyone's tears. There is no need to feel guilt-ridden. Lucy. Our hearts have surely reached you. Makarov said, bringing tears to Lucy's eyes. Lift your head high. You are a member of Fairy Tail. So this is our new member. Itachi's voice was heard as he walked over to the others, then he looked around. It's amazing that you could be calm at this time, Master, with this amount of damage. The council may sentence you to prison. Itachi said, making Makarov cry just like Lucy. Master. Urza said as everyone else sweat dropped. Itachi went up to Lucy and extended his hand in a friendly manner and with a friendly smile that would make most women melt. I'm Itachi Uchiha, nice to meet you. Oh, Lucy Heartfilia, it's a pleasure. Lucy said as she shook Itachi's hand with a faint blush as she was a little nervous. Itachi. Natsu's voice was heard. Itachi turned towards Natsu. Fight me. Natsu shouted and charged at Itachi. Itachi then karate chopped Natsu on the head, knocking him out, shocking Lucy and those that hadn't met Itachi before. He beat Natsu with a chop? Lucy questioned with wide eyes. We just finished a great battle with Phantom, and you're telling me you want more? Itachi said with a raised brow to the knocked out Natsu. Itachi. Makarov said, gaining his attention. How did it go? Did you give all the herbs you were supposed to gather for Perliuzica? Makarov asked, making it seem like Itachi had simply gotten a task from Perliuzica to everyone else, that way they wouldn't know what it was really about. I gave her most of them, couldn't find one of them though. She sure yelled at me for that. Itachi replied, rubbing the back of his head with a nervous smile. Makarov gained a sad expression. I see. But she said that she would at least be able to use the ones I got her for something. Itachi said with a smile. Well, at least it wasn't a total waste. Makarov said with a relieved expression. 1 week later, everyone was rebuilding the guild hall. An army of Itachi clones with construction worker helmets carrying a large pillar while the original pointed his finger in one direction. After the battle, Phantom Lord was disbanded. The council questioned everyone for a week about the little war between the guilds, and once they had everything they needed they left. Although Fairy Tail was expecting a punishment, much to Master Makarov's horror. Let's take a break, everyone, Mira said with some drinks for the workers. Natsu tried to lift a pile of pillars but to no avail. What a moron, Itachi said with a sweat drop. Oh my, Mira said, that's what you get for trying to carry so much, moron. Gray said, walking past Natsu while holding one pillar, not noticing a certain blue-haired woman watching him behind a wall. What did you call me? Natsu questioned, pushing all the pillars off him. You wanna fight? Gray questioned as they both locked heads. Quit carrying him like a wimp, Natsu shouted back at Gray. That's enough, Urza said, hitting them with a pillar on the head like they were nails. Urza, like Itachi, was wearing construction gear. Work your bodies, not your mouths. We need to rebuild Fairy Tail as quickly as possible. Aye, the two of them replied. Itachi then appeared behind Urza, karate chopping her head. When scolding people, don't hit them. Especially with a pillar. Itachi scolded with a stoic expression. Yes, Oni-san, Urza replied while rubbing the top of her head with a small tear drop running down her eye. Oni-san, several people questioned in unison at the fact of Urza's behavior. Both Gray and Natsu then hugged Itachi's legs with tears running down their eyes like waterfalls. It's good to have you back, man. Gray cried as finally there was someone to restrict Urza's violence. Thank you for coming back. Natsu cried for the same reason as Gray. You can let go now, Itachi said with a glare. Master is getting into the spirit too, Levi said, seeing Makarov now in his giant form working on rebuilding the guild. More like into it big time, Jet and Droy said in unison. Booze. Where should I put this lumber? Urza questioned with Itachi next to her, both holding a pillar each. Over there, Makarov replied. Okay, come on Urza, Itachi said. Yes, Oni-san, Urza responded as they both began marching. Damn, I can't stand being beaten, Gray and Natsu said in unison. But, you know, Mikao said. Isn't it a little too big? Wakaba questioned, seeing as the guild would become even larger than the old one. We decided to remodel it while we're at it. This is the concept sketch of the finished version, Mira said, holding up a drawing. Really? Mikao questioned. Let's see it, Wakaba said. Natsu suddenly appeared, but it was just fine how it was. Gray then appeared looking at the drawing with Natsu. What's it gonna be like? Itachi then appeared. I'm interested too. They looked at the drawing, and it looked like a little kid drew it. Wow, Mikao said with a sweat drop. That's something else, Wakaba said. I don't really understand it, Natsu said, looking confused at the drawing. Wait, this looks like something, Itachi said when he realized who drew it. Oh no, man, this sketch sucks. What idiot drew this junk? Gray asked, making Itachi sweat nervously as Mira began to cry. Oh, it was you, Mira. Gray instantly regretted his comment. You made her cry again. Natsu, Mikao and Wakaba said in unison. That's Gray for you. Happy appeared. Itachi began stroking Mira's head. There, it was a good drawing. There. After some time, Natsu stretched his arms out. I'm starving. Happy agreed. Is it time to eat yet? Gray asked when suddenly a wave of water hit them. What was that? I'm soaking wet, Natsu said. Boxed lunches. Happy pointed at a pink box now in Gray's lap. Boxed lunches? Gray questioned as he opened it, seeing his own face made in the rice and with the fried chicken that had some fruit on it that spelled love. Gray began to freak out while Natsu had stars in his eyes. Ooh, looks tasty, Natsu said. Aren't we going to discuss where it came from? Itachi questioned, only to be ignored. I recognize this. This is called a character lunch. Happy pointed out. This is insane. I can't eat this. It's oozing something, Gray said, looking gloomy. Then let me have it, Natsu said. Are we seriously not going to discuss where it came from? Itachi said when he noticed some blue hair sticking out from behind the wall. Juvia is sad. She spent 3 days straight making that. Juvia muttered with tears running down her eyes. Never mind, Itachi thought. Who said it was time to eat? Urza appeared looking angrily at Gray and Natsu. I did, Itachi said. Oh, okay then, Urza said, not looking angry anymore, and then looked at the lunch boxes. Oh, is that one of those character lunches? Urza questioned, stabbing a fork in the rice that looked like Gray. Yikes, Gray said as Urza ate it. Hey, this is pretty good. I'll have some more, Urza said. Seriously, I'll have some too, Gray said. Itachi then saw Juvia's head peek out from behind the wall with tears of joy forming in her eyes. Inside Juvia's mindscape, it's great. Really great. I want this every day. So please marry me, Gray said in Juvia's imagination. Yes. We can have 30 babies or so. Juvia replied in her own imagination. Back in reality, Juvia is so touched. She said and instantly went back into hiding from them. Itachi, Natsu, Gray, Urza, Loki appeared holding a keychain with several celestial keys on it. Could you give these to Lucy for me? They're her keys. I was wondering why you hadn't been around lately. Gray said. You were looking for these the whole time. Natsu asked. Are you okay? You look really pale, Happy said. Thanks. I'm fine. Phew. Being a gentleman is tough. Loki exclaimed. Something is not right about him, Itachi thought and activated his Sharingan. Strange. He has similar energy signatures as those keys. Lucy doesn't seem to be here. Maybe she still hurts too much to be up and about. Happy said. We can go pay her a visit then. You should come too, Loki. Natsu said. I'll pass. You know I'm no good around celestial wizards. Loki said and walked away. Really? Even though this is Lucy we're talking about? Natsu questioned. Natsu. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Don't pry too much, Urza said. Later at Lucy's place. Lucy. Happy said flying outside of the window. How ya doing? Natsu asked crawling through the window. Don't go through the window. Gray said crawling out from the chimney stove. Urza and Itachi were already inside the room. There's a door for a reason, you know. Urza said while sipping some tea. Do you usually do this? Breaking into someone's home? Itachi asked with a sweat drop. They all now stood in the center of the room. Huh? Natsu questioned. Normally, Gray said. My place. Happy said with a Lucy mask throwing a stuffed whale at Natsu and Gray. Is what would happen, but, Urza said looking around for the blonde girl. What disturbs me the most is that you guys have done this so often it's become a habit. Itachi said with a nervous look. The bath, huh? Gray questioned as an image of Lucy throwing something at Gray and calling him a pervert appeared in his mind. Is the cliché waiting for me? So, I'm sorry, but... Gray said entering the bathroom. She's not here, Natsu said sitting in the bathtub. That was fast. And don't get in it. Gray shouted. It looks like she left. Urza said now only wearing a towel around her covering her breasts and her downer area, plus another towel wrapped around her head, while she was holding bath equipment in her arm. And what are you here for? Gray questioned. Bad Urza. Itachi scolded, lightly hitting her on the head making Urza let out a small yelp. They were now back in Lucy's bedroom. This time Urza has her armor back on by the way. That griping was lackluster, Urza said. Not having Lucy around throws everything off. Happy said. What kind of criticism is that? And excuse me for being lackluster. Gray said. Lucy. Happy looked around. He opened a box and then gained wide eyes. Where is she? Natsu questioned. Looking where Happy was looking then also gained wide eyes. What are you guys looking in there for? Gray asked looking gaining wide eyes too and a small blush. Urza then also looked and began to blush. I didn't know there was underwear like this. Happy said. This is underwear. Gray questioned. When would one don something like this? Urza questioned. Mealtimes. Natsu said. Nope. Definitely not. Urza. Gray and Happy said in unison. Why would she be in her own underwear drawer? Itachi asked looking at them slightly disturbed. We shouldn't be looking in here anyway. Hurry and shut it. Gray said and Happy closed the drawer. Lucy. Come out. Happy shouted. Why do you keep looking in weird places? Gray questioned. Itachi then noticed a note on her desk. Suddenly they heard Happy trip. They looked over to see a box filled with letters. What are these? Urza questioned. They're letters, Gray said. Natsu then opened up one of the letters and began reading it out loud. Mom, I finally managed to join Fairy Tail, the guild I really. Natsu, what you are doing is a crime. Itachi pointed out. Hey, now, don't go reading her stuff. Gray said. Today I met someone named Urza. She's really cool and pretty. Natsu continued reading making Urza blush a little at what was in the letter. Then Natsu and Gray, are all of these letters to her mom? Gray asked looking around the pile. Looks like it, Happy replied. Why haven't they been mailed? Natsu questioned. There's a note, Urza said gaining the attention of the others. Lucy left a note. She says she's going home, why? Natsu, Gray and Happy questioned in unison. We've got to go after her. Urza shouted jumping out of the window and running towards the train station while dragging Itachi around like a ragdoll, whom had a deadpan expression, by the arm. Natsu, Gray and Happy replied in unison, following after Urza and Itachi. They instantly took the train and headed over to the Heartfilia mansion. Guys? Itachi asked. What? They questioned in unison. Which station is the Heartfilia mansion at? Itachi asked, making them pale while also gaping. Urza then spotted the conductor. Tell me how to get to the Heartfilia mansion right now. Urza shouted to the poor man while holding him by the collar. Itachi then karate chopped her on the head, making her let the man go while rubbing the spot on her head. Excuse me, but what my sister meant to ask was, which station do we have to exit to get to the Heartfilia mansion? Itachi asked. There are 5 more stations before we arrive at the Heartfilia area. The conductor replied while shaking a little in fear. Thank you very much. Itachi bowed. After the train ride, once again Urza grabbed Itachi by the arm and ran with the others towards the Heartfilia mansion. They then saw a large mansion on the horizon and saw Lucy standing in front of a grave that said, Layla Heartfilia. Everyone besides Itachi shouted in unison. Lucy. Shocking her beyond words. Why are you here? Lucy said as Happy flew and hugged while tears ran from his eyes. Lucy. Happy cried. Lucy then explained that she simply came here to tell her father that she was not going to come back and threatened him not to attack Fairy Tail again. And that she was just about to go back. This made Gray and Natsu shocked beyond words, as Gray had wide eyes while he was gaping, while Natsu looked embarrassed for worrying so much. Urza just let out a small laughter as Itachi let out a small smile. And Happy was still hugging Lucy while crying. After Lucy said goodbye to the servants of the mansion, they all left. I'm really sorry I worried you guys. Lucy apologized. Don't sweat it. It was our fault for jumping to conclusions. Urza said. Looks like there was nothing to worry about after all. Gray said. Yet you guys almost threw a tantrum when you thought she was gone forever. Itachi said with a little smirk. Happy cried the whole time. Natsu said. You were in tears too, Natsu. Happy exclaimed. Was not. Natsu argued with a small blush. I'm really sorry. Lucy apologized again. Man, this sure is a spacious town. Gray said as he looked around. It's very nice and peaceful. Urza said. Oh, no, this is just our garden. Everything from here to that mountain is our estate. Lucy said, pointing at a mountain in the distance. Natsu and Gray began to turn pale. What's wrong, guys? Holy crap, she's rich. Rich girl overload. Gray shouted now in salute mode. Casual bragging overload. Natsu shouted also in salute mode. Natsu and Gray have been defeated. Happy shouted as Natsu and Gray danced in the background. Captain Urza, could you please make a statement? Such clear blue skies, Urza said, looking into the skies. Medic. Captain Urza has a screw loose. General Itachi, what are your orders? Happy questioned. She really is rich, huh? Itachi said, looking in the distance. We've lost General Itachi as well. Happy shouted. Uppa. Gray and Natsu shouted in unison. Lucy simply let out laughter while the others looked at her with a smile. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode and never want to miss another, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.